Can Boeing lift itself out of crisis? Welcome to Market Insight. I'm Elena Casas. At this week's big aviation industry showcase, the Farnborough Air Show, both Boeing and Airbus had new deals to show off. But the European plane maker is soaring ahead of its US counterpart as Boeing teeters from crisis to crisis. This week it struck a plea deal with the US Justice Department over criminal fraud conspiracy charges relating to two 737 MAX crashes that killed 346 people in 2018 and 2019. But after regulatory scrutiny forced it to scale back production, it is still way behind on delivering planes. Well, Boeing reports next week, and ahead of that, I'm joined now by Ben Tsocanos, Aerospace Director at S&P Global Ratings. Ben, hi. I know you've revised Boeing's outlook to negative, so presumably you think the company cannot quickly recover its reputation here.
Right. They do have a lot of work to do. I would say that the big question is, can they turn around the production on their 737 MAX line? They lowered production considerably the first half of the year in order to overhaul the process and improve quality control and reliability. So we're really waiting in the next months to see whether there's a payoff for that investment.
Is there anything in next week's earnings report that could potentially improve your view? Any potential new orders coming out of this week's air show? Any bright spots?
Yeah, certainly we're looking for more news on when they think that they can start ramping up production of the MAX. I think that if they had big numbers from orders, they would have announced them at Farnborough. And I think you noted there were some mostly wide body orders, but not a lot on the narrow body MAX side.
There are supply chain problems across the sector, of course. Airbus too has a huge backlog, but are they successfully capitalizing on Boeing's woes?
Well, I would say that Airbus has been able to increase production certainly more than their counterpart. As you pointed out, they haven't been immune from some of the supply chain problems. They recently pulled back on guidance for full year deliveries. Although it wasn't a huge number, I think that the markets reacted fairly negatively to it. They pulled back on when they think that they can get to their peak level of production on the narrow body side. So far, we haven't seen a huge shift in market share based on orders and backlog. That's not to say that I think that Airbus is not doing their best to make the most of the situation.
Is Boeing capable then of resolving these supply chain problems in a way that could restore investor confidence?
Well, they certainly have done a lot of work, and I think they've said the right things about the steps that they're taking, and we're just looking for the results of that work, and that would look like production that gets into the high 30s sometime later this year or next year, or at least to deliver a sense of confidence that they are on a path to achieving that.
What about the defence side of the business, Ben? Obviously, we've seen a big uptick in defence spending in all NATO countries since the start of the war in Ukraine. Is there an upside for the company there?
Well, defense, unfortunately, has also been a problem for Boeing. They've been saddled with a number of fixed cost development projects, which have gone over budget. Have really been a financial burden. So I think that there's potential upside. They don't have a lot of, I would say, obvious wins on the near-term horizon. But if they can turn that part of the business around, that can certainly be a contributor and be an offset to some of the problems they've been having on the commercial side.
Obviously, the scale of defence spending, particularly in the US, may depend on the outcome of the election. Do you think that's something that's also concerning Boeing investors?
Well, I think in general, that's one area of I would say broad consensus politically. The spending for defense has remained strong, although the budgetary process has been pretty dysfunctional. So I don't see a lot of downside. I think potentially there could be a little more flexibility on the M&A side if there's a change in administration. But I would say that for the most part, we expect consistency.
Ben Tsocanos of S&P Global Ratings, thank you so much for joining us. Well, that's your market insight. Don't forget, you can watch more videos on Reuters.com.